Hello, everybody, and welcome back to High Ground. It's been a little while, not a whole ton of Siege stuff going on, maybe a few things I could have made videos about, but we're sort of starting to ramp back up. So 2 of the regional closed qualifiers have already concluded, and 2 of them are coming up soon, with the North American one coming up next, and then we have Europe. So going to talk about all 4 of them to some extent. Of course, going to focus on NA as you may well expect, but okay, it's been a little while. If you miss me, leave me a like, leave me a comment, whatever you want to do. But all right, so we're starting with this beautiful graphic, which has been lauded by many. So this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, are going to be the closed qualifier matches for North America. The winner of this will go to SI. The rest of them get literally nothing. 9 a.m. Pacific time, both days. That would be noon Eastern. So TSM versus Mirage, Space Station versus Reality TV. We'll talk about this a little bit more when we get back there. First, let's talk about the other regions. So APAC first up. This one and the LATAM one were both this past weekend, the 13th through the 15th, or this one is 14th through 15th. I think the LATAM one was also on Friday, so 13th, 14th, 15th. Anyways, a fairly expected result, maybe a little bit of a surprise at the very end. Probably you would expect either Sandbox Art or Direwolves to make it through. I mean, Fnatic is a name that people know, but hasn't really been doing stuff lately. Fury has been, maybe it's also a name that you know if you have some amount of knowledge of APAC, and then Knights as well. If you have a lot of knowledge of APAC, I guess you might know any of these teams. But Direwolves, with a sort of tumultuous roster at the moment, a couple of changes coming into this, and so I think they were quite surprised to take it with having to make 2 roster changes coming right into it. And Sandbox were probably the favorite, but no, the Direwolves are making it to SI. They made it to a couple events this year, didn't make a huge splash, just like pretty much no APAC teams did, so we'll see what they can do at SI. And LATAM, sort of similar, where you would pick 1 of 2 teams to win it, either Furia or Team 1, who have now rebranded, I guess, to LOS plus Team 1. I don't know what LOS is, but some sort of sponsorship type deal. Okay, and Furia missing their first SI in a while. They were definitely at the last 2. But they are a team that has gone to a lot of events. They are at most of the majors and Six Invitationals, and as I was saying, for a Six Invitational, they'll be missing in a few years, and it is Team 1 taking their place. And of course, as I said, one of the 2 teams that you'd put your money on of all these teams. The non-Brazilian teams just cannot compete with the Brazilian teams, unfortunately. And yeah, this isn't exactly the Team 1 of old that you might know from the Mexico Major. None of the same players, but 4 of the same 5 players from the Charlotte Major: Dots, Dash, Maya, and Rise. Is it Rise or RHZ? I don't know. You can tell me below if you want. And then Loban coming in recently to replace Lagonis, who went over to Liquid. So yeah, they'll be at the Six Invitational, and well, we'll see how they will perform. Let's talk about Europe, and this is actually the last one. This will be after NA, but whatever. I'm going to talk about NA last. So Na'Vi, Outsiders, and Team Secret are all EUL teams. Makers, they are the only non-EUL team here, coming from Challenger League in Europe. So Na'Vi and Outsiders qualified by being the top 2 point getters globally, SI point getters, that did not place in the top 16. So a little bit of a consolation prize. They get to skip the open qualifiers, go straight to this closed qualifier bracket. And Makers, they played at, I don't think this most recent SI, but the one before that. So I believe they won this event, this closed qualifier, to make it there. So we'll see what happens this time around. A couple different players. I want to say Aqui, Lalo, and Gemini. Is it Gemini or is it Gemini? I don't know. They're Italian, but okay. I think these 3 have been on the roster for a while. Dora and Sari joining relatively recently, and then Team Secret and Na'Vi have been making some roster changes. I guess maybe Na'Vi a little bit more, but probably the favorites on paper and in everyone's hearts is going to be Outsiders, and this is basically the old Team Empire with Shepard, Joystick, Always, and Dan being joined by Pasha. So not only is it a very strong roster on paper, we'll have to see how they fare in this new day and age, but they've generally been a team that has adapted to any meta and done pretty well. Just a year ago at the last Six Invitational, they placed 2nd. So, it would be nice to see the runner-up team return to Six Invitational, and we'll just have to see if they can swing it or not. And if they don't win the closed qualifier, maybe that, certainly they won't get to go, but maybe that just means it's not to be, not till next year. We'll see. Okay, back to North America. And sort of a similar breakdown to EU, where it is 3 NA teams, or 3 tier 1 teams, I suppose, NAL teams: Space Station, TSM, and Mirage, with Space Station and TSM being the the top 2 point getters that didn't place in the top 16. And then Mirage won the first open qualifier. Reality TV won the second one. I think Reality TV was in the final of against Mirage in the first one, so they were the runner-up into the winner, so good for them. Certainly deserving based on that metric. And who's the favorite here? I would think TSM. They placed first place in NA last stage, beating SSG. I believe they beat Mirage. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think they did, right? And Space Station beat Mirage as well in that super comeback game where they were down like 6-1 or something, 1-6, however you want to call it. And, you know, Mirage, they changed up the roster a bit. Still the 5th player to be determined. I'm assuming it's Hyper, but I guess we don't know that for certain. I guess there were some issues with payment and whatnot, so we'll see what they do there. But if it is Hyper, you know, it's a pretty mean-looking roster. That is I think the 5-man that they played through the qualifier. Hyper was certainly playing with them, and yeah, it wasn't in anybody else's stead. So yeah, Kento no longer on the roster. It is presumably Hyper joining them, and well, okay, let me look at Space Station and TSM. Rampy, Bosco, Fultz, Hot and Cold, Yeti. You probably know these guys. Yeti joining the roster pretty recently and sort of revitalized Space Station, brought them from they had like 9th place in stage 2 into 3rd place in stage number 3. If they beat TSM in that very last game, if they beat them in, I think it had to be regulation, they would have been first place. Instead, they were passed by Sonics, who got 2nd place. And, you know, again, TSM, as I said before, the highest placing team in NAL this last stage, and the 2nd highest placing NA team at the major. They got 5th through 8th, getting eliminated by the Sonics in game 3 fashion. Achieve Bolo Merc have been here for a little while. Gasher and, a very long while, I should say. Gasher and Snake joining recently, and similar to Yeti on Space Station, seemingly revitalized the roster. They weren't doing too well in stages 1 and 2 with Gio and Chala. These guys come on the roster, they get 1st place, they make the major, they make playoffs of the major. Pretty good, and definitely a team that you want to see return to SI, seeing as though they won the last SI. And again, only 3 of the 5 players that did so are still on the roster, but you know, it is still TSM. It is still 3/5 of the roster. So yeah, I definitely give them the favorite. Mirage we talked about. Reality TV, the only non-pro team here, Mr. V, Tristan, Giddy, Hat, Rice, and sort of been thrown together, maybe not haphazardly, but Mr. V always has this revolving door of players playing with him, and well, he gets some good players and he enables them well, and then they get poached. So in the past we saw Gavani, Packer, some other players on his roster, but he has put together another roster and taken them to the top 4 of NA qualifiers. So certainly the underdog. I think a lot of people would love to see them make it through, but it does seem sort of unlikely. They directly lost to Mirage in the first qualifier, and then can they hang with TSM and SSG? We'll have to see. They go up against SSG first. So double elimination bracket. Not 100% sure if there's any sort of advantage in the grand final. I haven't seen anything that indicates whether or not there will be an advantage. So I mean, if I had to predict it, of course, TSM should beat Mirage. Mirage could certainly pull it out, though. Space Station should beat Reality TV. TSM versus Space Station. That should be a banger. One way or another, I would sort of anticipate TSM versus Space Station in the grand final, but also, yeah, Mirage could definitely take one of their places. Definitely. Mirage has been on the super come up, not the old Mirage. They've had quite the ascendancy recently. So, I mean, what do you guys think is going to happen? Who do you think is going to take it? Are you rooting for the super underdog, Reality TV? Are you rooting for the slight underdog, Mirage? Do you think Space Station will edge it out over TSM? What do you think is going to happen? I guess it's possible TSM and Space Station will not even play each other if one of them wins and one of them loses, and then one gets eliminated before they have a chance to play. So I think that's pretty much all there is to talk about. I probably will talk about this after it concludes. Maybe I'll talk about the Europe one as well, and then next month we have SI, but I don't think really anything else to do before then. So that's going to do it for me. With all of that being said, catch you guys next time.